really quickly, I want to read some stuff from Matthew. And this isn't part of the lesson, but just some good precepts. Number one, in Matthew chapter 18.
Can I use this?
Yes, please. It says, "And if your brother sins against you, go and reprove him between you and him alone." All right. If he hears you, you have gained a brother. But if he does not hear, if he does not hear, take with you one or two more, that by the mouth of two or three witnesses every word may be established. And if he refuses to hear them, say it to the assembly. And if he refuses even to hear the assembly, let him be to you like a Gentile and a tax collector. So that's the proper way to bring something to your. It says brother, but brother or sister really is interchangeable when you're dealing with people who are of the assembly, in the way of your own household. When you have an issue, bring it to them first. Don't go to the local newspaper, the local gossip, or whoever the case may be. And I always see, before you reach up. Start there first. Start your inquiry there to even know what it is you're feeling. How can you bring something to someone if you don't know what it is you're bringing to them? Gauge what you're feeling first, what your thoughts are, where the level of your hurt is coming from, and examine if it's even proper or fitting for you to even speak on it, or should it just be abolished altogether. If it's platinum and holds up, bring it directly to that person. This cuts down on about 95% of the BS that takes place just in life, period. You went straight to the source. So that if that person hears you, great, you gained a brother. And again, I say brother and or sister. That doesn't work. Then it says you bring one or two more with you, really as a confirmation, as a witness. And it also hopes that maybe that they can kind of persuade or help, maybe get a different side of the story, of the narrative, or just some way to make that person see why they shouldn't have done what they did, or whatever the case may be. If that doesn't work, you bring it to a larger assembly if you are privy to that kind of those kind of numbers. Hopefully the assembly can kind of get some sway. If then that does not work, you're to treat them as a Gentile and a tax collector. And if you don't know anything about the culture of the tax collectors were not Gentiles. They were your people, our people, that the Gentiles put in place. When the Romans took over Jerusalem and all of Judea and Israel, there are a lot of cities, biblical cities, in that whole region. Samaria, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Shiloh, Bethsaida. I mean, all of these cities that were known for certain things, especially the seafaring cities like where Caesarea is now and all those places, right? Well, what the Romans did was they did what our government does. They put up tolls. So, hey, if you want to travel from here to the other side of the coast where it used to be free, if you were native to this land, now you're going to have to pay us. Hey, if you want to go from Georgia to New York, you're going to hit a certain amount of tolls now. And the people, because they were had people in play and power, we had to pay. But the Romans didn't want to spend their time sitting in the freaking tax booths in the blazing sun all day. Hey, you people need a job? And a lot of us said no, but you had the fuse like, yeah, we need a job. So I believe at least one of the apostles was a tax collector. He was looked at as sellouts to us because you worked directly for these Roman people, these Gentiles, and then you took the money from your own people for you to bring home your daily bread. And that's what you did. And that's who Mashiach was speaking with, and that's why they asked him, well, he says for the tax collectors. You see, they make it known to you that a Gentile and a tax collector are not the same, because treat him like a Gentile and a tax collector. And they said that he had ate with the Gentiles and again the tax collectors. So we know that they were not the same people. But we looked at the tax collectors like Sambos or Uncle Sam's and the sellouts and of that nature. So anyway, when it gets to that point and you have exhausted all remedies to try to work out something with a person, then you treat him as such. How do we treat him? We didn't deal with him. We didn't really eat with him. We kept our distance. We weren't overly disrespectful to him, anything like that, but we had no dealings with him. That's why it was such a weird thing to see this this Jew eating and breaking bread. We didn't do it. It was taboo. It was a social taboo back then. So, if ever you guys have an issue with anyone, just play this verse back, please. Then, and also in the same chapter, in verse 18, I often say this a lot. Mashiach saying, "Truly, I say to you, whatever you bind on the earth shall be having been bound in heaven, and whatever you loosen on earth shall be having loosened in heaven. Again, I say to you that if two of you agree on the earth concerning any matter that they ask, it shall be done for them by my Father in the heavens. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in their midst." So what's happening is that he's giving us a newfound authority that we didn't have. Before, if it was written, that's what it was. If it wasn't written, there was a whole bunch of gray area. There's a lot that's written about the law in scripture, but for every law that's written, there's about 10 or maybe even 40 things that are not covered just in life. So then what do? What law do you consult? How do you operate? Like I said before, when Solomon had that issue of the two women who brought the baby before him, one saying that this child is dead and mine got switched, the other was like, no, this is my child to begin with. I mean, how's he gonna flip through the law to find out what to do? There ain't no law telling him how to delineate or work that whole situation. You have to use your discretion at that point. Which by that point, hopefully you have been doing Psalms 11 verse 10, the fear of your eyes, the beginning of wisdom, and those give you commandments, have a good understanding to kind of help you navigate that murky water. And Mashiach is letting us know that there's going to be a lot of those situations that go on during him and after him that will be very, very murky. There's no law that directly tell you how to navigate that. Thusly, whatever you agree, you and another, making it binding, whether it's your sister, whether it's you and your husband, whatever you guys agree upon on earth, that's binding. Right? So it says, let it be bound. It'll be bound in heaven. Whatever you guys say, no, we're not going to do that, we're going to do away with that, that's loosening it. It'll be loosed in heaven. They have that kind of authority. Then we're told, this is how we know that we are the ecclesia, the called out ones, were the word that they pulled the church from. Because when two or more are gathered in his name, then he's in our midst. Now that ground is now holy. Whether you are praying in a dungeon, a cell, the back of a police, whatever, it doesn't matter. We are the portable tabernacles now. We are the temple he's living through us. That's the kind of power we have. So then also makes you understand the importance of keeping your vessel undefiled, or not marking it up or doing too many alterations to it that are permanently altering to your temple. Simply because this is your temple, the only one you will ever know in this life. So treat it with a high regard. But anyway, I wanted to start with there. But today's lesson primarily is on bridling thy tongue and the power of the tongue, and to be blunt, just the power and the wisdom, more importantly, of just shutting the F up and busting in the words. There's a lot to be said from just shutting the F up. And I want to go through scripture because if that phrase was around, I'm pretty sure Solomon would have spoken it, but I'll let you read from his own writing. We're going to start from James chapter 3. And I think I'm going to go, so I want to read the whole chapter, James 3, 1 through 18. Yeah, we're going to read the whole chapter. James says, "Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, knowing that we shall receive greater judgment." And I want to stop there because he's actually saving a lot of lives when he says that. Because many people want to be teachers, instructors, elders, whatever have you. But to whom much is given, much is required. And the reason why James is saying this is because the people that you teach and lead, you do understand that you're responsible for whatever food you put out. If you're going to, shepherd these people, then if you lead them off a cliff, somebody has to be responsible for that. So it's a very tough position that honestly nobody should envy. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to have been in Moses' position by any type of standard. You know, when we speak of Moses, we talk about all of the great, esteem, and he got to see the Shekinah, and but the frustration Moses went through, the turmoil, even the back and forth between him and the Creator himself, it's a lot. I wouldn't have wanted that job to overseeing millions. You get done advocating for these people not to be dead and killed, only to come down and then be equally hot with them yourself. And the entire time you do it, they whine and complain. See miracles, then whine and complain. It never stops. I mean, that never stops. Never. So, again, to whom much is given, much is required. So James starts off by saying, not many of you should become instructors or teachers, my brothers, knowing that we shall receive greater judgment. For we all stumble in many things. If anyone does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle the entire body. Look, we put bits in the mouths of horses for them to obey us, and we turn their body. Now stop, because a horse, like I've said before, a horse isn't weak, it's meek. If I could sum up that word, I would use a horse. Meek to me is just controlled strength. It's not being depleted, it's controlled strength. When you could, but you don't. Like an ox. An ox could plow straight through this house. It's not going to. And an ox doesn't even eat meat, he eats grass. Some of the biggest dinosaurs were not meat eaters. And they were not ferocious. They were kind of mild tempered, but they could do some damage if you roll them up. Horse, another one. Horse is just muscle. I don't know if you ever fuck a horse, but it's just muscle. Lean, there's no fat anywhere on a horse. It's just straight muscle. But when you look at a horse, you pet it, it's all elegant, long flowing mane, nice tail, and then they'll let you mount it. And a horse can put two of you up there and take you wherever y'all need to go for the most part. But if a horse wanted to go rogue, who could control it? If a horse wanted to take his hoof and kick you. We was in New Orleans and seen a man get kicked by the police horses, and he almost went into a mild cardiac arrest. Head split wide open, and the horse did it so quick, didn't even flinch. Took no energy from the horse. Just the back into him standing on the horses. Such power made me respect the horse and made me respect the Creator that much even more. Like, such power. And these people, the man was on the horse, the police was on the horse when he kicked him. The man didn't shit nothing. The horse held his weight on 3 legs. Just telling him, that's meek. Now compare that to Yahshua. Yahshua will let you know what kind of power he has. Says, I can call down these many legions of angels if I wanted to, Peter. He's meek. Very powerful. Could have done some damage. Very meek. So for us, being reborn anew, that's who we're called to be. And the ways of the world really sees that as weakness. We ought to know better. It didn't do better as a result. Look, we put the bits in the mouths of horses for them to obey us, and we turn their body. Look at the ships too. Although they are so big and are driven by strong winds, they are turned by a very small rudder, and they still are to this day, wherever the pilot intends. So too the tongue is a little part, yet boasts greatly. See how a little fire kindles a great forest. And the tongue is a fire, the world of unrighteousness. Among all parts the tongue is set, the one defiling the entire body and setting on fire the will of life, and is set on fire by Gehenna. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea is tamed, and has been tamed by mankind, but no man is able to tame the tongue. It is unruly, evil, filled with deadly poison. With it we bless our Elohim and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the likeness of Elohim. Out of the same mouth proceed blessings and curses. My brothers, this should not be so. Does the fountain send forth the sweet and bitter from the same opening? My brothers, is a fig tree able to bear olives, or a grapevine figs? So neither is a fountain to make salt and sweet water. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by his good behavior and his works in meekness of wisdom. There's that word again. But if you have bitter jealousy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast against and lie against the truth. This is not wisdom coming down from above, but it is earthly, sensual, and demonic. For with jealousy and self-seeking are, there is confusion in every foul deed. But the wisdom from above is first clean, then peaceable, gentle, ready to obey, filled with compassion, and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. You know, verse 17 in me says a lot. But the wisdom of above is first clean, then peaceable, not angry, not warlike, gentle. It's not a raging bull. It's not hard to handle. Ready to obey. You don't have to know everything. It's not circumstantial. Oh, when I get this, then I'll do it. Or when I understand what this means, then I'll do it. I've heard people tell me, well, you know, I don't know what the covering means, so I just stop wearing it and things of that nature. But the spirit is ready to obey, and the mind, they embolden it. Because when you come to a point where that switch goes off, you don't even know what you're ready to obey. You just ready to obey. And then you got to start seeking. It says, filled with compassion and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. You know, that's what James says about all from the tongue. All this is spurring from the tongue, you know. I want to go to 1 Peter chapter 2 really quickly. We in chapter 2, verses 21 to 22. For to this you were called, because Mashiach also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps, who committed no sin, nor was deceit found in his mouth. Alright, so clearly we're being told by Peter that the Mashiach left us an example that what to follow. He lets us know that he committed no sin and that there was no deceit found in his mouth. And again, since we're talking about the tongue, I felt that this was, very vital and accurate. Because again, how could lies and truth flow from the same source in the same way that salt water and fresh water can flow from the same source? From here, I want us to go to Proverbs Chapter 16. We're going to be in verses 28. And Solomon says, a perverse man sends forth strife, and a whisperer separates intimate friends. Well, what do you use to whisper? Your tongue. And let's go in the same book. I want us to go to chapter 26. And we're in verses 20 to 21. For lack of wood, the fire goes out, and without a slanderous strife ceases. As charcoal is to burning coals, and wood is to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. That's fire again. We were told that the tongue is a what? Fire. Yes. And then here Solomon is comparing wood and fire. We're talking about the tongue. Let's go to chapter 25, verses 11 to 12. It says, a word spoken at the right time is like apples of gold in settings of silver. So sometimes it's not what you see, but in this case, when you say it. So a word spoken at the right time, which means there was a time for you to speak and you didn't speak, and that's good. It means you had to shut the fuck up at that point. It ain't time for you to give this out. It could be the right thing at the wrong time. We just watched the movie last night where they had a really, really good idea. And he's just ahead of their time. And it cost them damn near everything. Now, had they waited 2 decades or maybe even 1 decade in the 70s, when you seen black enterprises taking off, it may have been received a little better. But it was the right thing at the wrong time. All this requires one thing: self-restraint or self-control. The ability to zip it. And don't zip it and let somebody know that you zipping it like I'm not gonna say nothing. Because at that point, you might as well go say it. You might as well say it.
Yeah.
Sit down, listen. Don't even bat an eye. Whatever they throwing you, it's like this. You ask somebody what the price is, your budget is $500, and they tell you $5,000. But $5,000?
Okay.
Okay.
We do that in all the meetings.
Every single last one of
We're like,
them.
oh, okay.
Don't bat an eye. Poker face. Self-restraint, self-control. Who had that? Horses have it. Mashiach has it. And we were told that he set the example that we are to follow. He could have came and, y'all don't even know. Y'all don't know who I am or what I'm about. But you about to know the date. He wasn't on that. He rarely did he ever even stop to explain himself to people. If they believed it. And he was okay with that. And I'm telling you, you're going to have to be okay with it too. Pick the phone up and dial out for what? Them people already got you tried, convicted, and executed all within the same day. What are you explaining? Gotta be okay with that. From here, I want us to go to chapter 15, verse 28. Solomon says, the heart of the righteous ponders how to answer, but the mouth of the wrong pours out evil. Another precept. Now, we just got done reading that saying the right words at the right time is a valuable thing. He's compared it to precious metals. It's precious. It says the heart of the righteous ponders on how to answer. It's like, now, okay, let me think about this for a minute. I could just pow, pow, pow. It may be some cases that is needed. But the fact that you're even going through the thought process lets you know that you are compassion. We were told that wisdom from above is compassion. It's one of them. So that means you're compassionate towards whomever you're speaking to in order that you do not wish to offend them. Therefore, it's the only reason you would ponder your answer. How do I say this? You could say it out loud and you could let them know that you pondered, but you could do it internally. Whatever. We're told by the wisest man in the Bible that the heart of the righteous ponders how to answer. But the mouth of the wrong just, I'm going to say what I say off the top. You going to get my thoughts. I'm real with it. You're really foolish. Really foolish. Because again, there's a way to seem right to man, but lead it to death. Number two, it's not like you're leaning on your own understanding, which isn't much to be leaning on, period. You're standing on shaky grounds. And you're shooting off at the mouth. You're setting fires. When we think about a fire, is that fire isn't like any other kind of weapon of war. Fire can destroy what you sought to destroy and yourself too. And many people have died by their own fire that they set for someone else. Look around and the fire's around you. Oh snap. And you the one with the gasoline, so you about to go up instantly. It ain't like a gun where the bullets leave and then somebody come back. They're linear. Fire is an all-consuming thing, so it's very dangerous to play with. Even in control settings, you still got to take precautions. And you have a fire right there between your teeth. Then you play with it every day. You play with it for most of your life. I'll leave off at chapter 21. Verse 23. Whoever guards his mouth and tongue guards his life from distress. Now, I just got done telling you how the tongue is a fire. Fire is an all-consuming thing. Therefore, when you guard it, you're guarding, says, your life. I don't think he's being poetic here. I think that's literal. Your mouth can get you in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. You know, one person is when they pull you over, it's called the rights of Miranda. It's supposed to read to you. One of those rights are you have the right to an attorney. And you also got the right to remain silent. And you got the right to shut the fuck up. You don't have to answer nothing they ask you. It's not your silence is not an admission of guilt, and they're letting you know that. But for some odd reason, we hear that and it go on one after the other, and we get to talking. We get to talking. And when that happens, we talk too much. We start asking and answering questions that they didn't even ask us. And I went Tuesday to get it, but too much. Too much. You're gonna get your lawyer a very, very hard time based on what you said. You didn't even have a gun pointed at you. Just talking. Mashiach says, let your yes be yes, your no's be no's. Them things are the devil. Because the devil's in the detail. When you start throwing out more details, then you get a little more devilish. A little more entrapped into the system or whatever it is you're going through. Less has always been more in that regard. When you headed to the yes. No. Do you know how much? Nope. Do you know how fast you're going? Nope. Or say nothing at all. If you don't know what to say, don't say nothing. Nothing. And silence is free. And like I've said before, cost you nothing, but the inability to be silent will cost you everything. I'm just saying. For me, I want us to go to chapter 31. Now we're in Proverbs. This is what a lot of people like to go back and read about the proverbial woman. Verse 26 says, she shall open her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. That's all this woman talking about. It's safe, predictable, prosperous. This road, when she opens her mouth, it'll be with wisdom. No idle words. She can't be concocted or, guilt tripped in and saying, oh, she been talking about Becky and she ain't been involved in none of that. Look, you've been in the house with women or even in lockup, you want to stay out. We call it staying out the mix. Stay out the mix. You bouncing to and around from locker room to locker room trying to find, you're going to get caught up that way. And in prison, it's the same thing. Stay out the mix, little homie. Because you're going to get switched cheesed up out you. People going to see you bouncing to and fro from this camp to that camp. Well, how so-and-so know that? The only person who's been over here is so-and-so. Well, how they know? The only person. Now you got people die. You get discipline. You get things shoved in your anal cavities. Stay out the mix. And this proverbial woman is smart. And she shall open her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. So can't nobody really say much about her anyway if you didn't like her. Why you don't like her? She's just perfect. Yeah, well, that much. You didn't give him anything. Stay there, it's safe. For me, I want us to go to Psalms 141, verses 3.
Psalms
141. Verse 3. It says, Yahweh, set a guard for my mouth. Watch over the door of my lips. Well, there you go, David. There you go, David. Now, David was never champion with being as wise as his son, but, a lot of times you don't have to be. If you know that you have a notion to blurt out or just get yourself in trouble, ask him to help me. Don't let me be a snare unto myself. Don't let me overeat, don't let me speak too much. Don't let me drown in my emotions. I'm in the way and my shortcomings. That's the act of calling out, because you have to acknowledge, you have to be forthcoming of your shortcomings. He already knows it, but it's something about you uttering that. It's a level of humility that he honors. So David is like outright with it. Yahweh set a guard for my mouth. Watch over the doors of my lips. Help me shut the fuck up. Help me, please. Because there are times when I just want to let everybody in the room get a piece of my mind real quick, and this may not be the proper setting for that. Back in Proverbs, I want to go to chapter 18. Gonna bounce around between David and his son real quick because they say a mouthful. Here it says in chapter 18, verses 20 to 21, a man's stomach is satisfied from the fruits of his mouth, He is satisfied with the increase of his lips. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those loving it eat its fruit. A lot being said there. It simply boils down to, what do you want? Then it starts with you proclaiming that, because the moment you speak it, there it is. You've either given life to a fire, or you've given life to prosperity, blessings, things of that nature. You ever notice, like, when you're feeling something and then you speak it to somebody, it seems to like reinforce itself? You know, like when it's in your head, it's intangible. You don't know if you're tripping, and you possibly are tripping. But for that reason, when you say it to somebody, especially that's not in the right spirit, it was almost like a dead body. It's like Frankenstein. It's alive, and then it starts to take on a life of its own. It's just certain things that once we put out into the ether, man, you know, your words travel, the sound, they travel on the airwaves. That's energy, tone. Because it's not so much the words change throughout the centuries and the decades and through the generations and languages. However, the tone, the emotion, the spirit behind them, those are all being sent out. Where do you think that stuff goes? You know, I think spirits are like, especially these demons, they're like assorted flavors. They pick up on that stuff. Because we war against the prince of power of the air. And your words hit the air. So what are you putting out? Who are you attracting? You want to attract a murderous demon? We speak some murderous stuff. You'll pick it up, be here before you can blink. Now you got a problem. One that you cannot shake because you called it upon yourself. You want one of adultery? Speak it. Set it before your eyes. Have it germinate in your head. Then speak on it. It'll be there. But in the same black manner you do that, do understand that if you want the very antithesis, life, safety, peace, prosperity, speak it. I'm not saying your the spirit on the way won't come and be inhibited, because we know that in Daniel, Mikael, the powerful Mikael, was coming to bring him something, and he saw that he had been held back by the Prince of Persia. Sorry I took so long, Daniel. The Prince of Persia was holding me back. Now the Prince of Persia is so demons have principalities in every major city. In the occult, it is taught that on the highest building is where you're going to find that deity sitting at. That's why the Bible speaks so much about these high places that these pagans used to build. That was the whole goal. They built high places, and the deity would sit right up there and would monitor the whole city and all the demons up under it and people who work for it and whatever have you. So anyway, so I got a little sidetracked. Let me reel it back a little bit. What was I?
Power of life and death are in the tongue.
Yes. So back to Daniel. Mikael was held back by this principality demon known as the Prince of Persia. And so we're told about it. But apparently this Prince of Persia is a very warlike and a murderous deity or demon that still inflicts the very Middle East to this day. And that's why they say it's a very unstable region. They can never find peace, and you'll be hard pressed to find any ever where there was ever any peace. This Prince of Persia, because you got Ishmael, who was sent out. The prophecy on Ishmael is that he should be a man of war, his hand against all of his brothers and all of his brothers' hands against him. So I'm pretty sure Ishmael throughout his lifetime spoke some things, and then the spirit came and reinforced it, and here you go. Then you have Muhammad. You read about Muhammad. Muhammad tried to become a Jew before he started Islam, but he was an angry man. He was fighting in the synagogues who kept kicking him out. So he went back to his land. You had all this stuff being reinforced over there. So again, the tongue, back to the tongue. What do you want sent out? Because whatever you send out, that's most likely what's going to come back to you. Don't ask me when, because his timing is not our timing. What do you want? And it's just simply up to you. For me, I want us to go to Matthew chapter 15. Now Mashiach speaking here in verse 11. And he says, not that which goes into the mouth defiles a man, but that which comes out of the mouth defiles the man. He didn't say what comes out of the body. He didn't say what comes out of the eyes, the nose, the mouth, or even the anus. What comes out of the mouth is what defiles a man. Again, precept upon precept, we just spoke about what the tongue can do. How detrimental it could be, or how a blessing it could be. From here, I want us to go back into Proverbs. We're in chapter 17. Chapter 17, verse 27 says, he who has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is cool of spirit. Even a fool keeping silence is regarded as wise, as understanding when he closes his lips. So you could be dumb as a box of rocks. Dumb as a box of rocks. But if you had the ability to shut up, wise. Picture this. We couldn't read, couldn't write back in the day. You know what we could do when we was in the master's house? Listen and shut the fuck up. So a lot of us became educated that way. That's how we were taught how to read. That's how we were taught stocks, or how to farm, or how to negotiate a deal, or whatever the case may be. Just shut the fuck up. You don't have to be the sharpest tool in the shed. That again is a free ability. This is Solomon saying this. Solomon is saying this. He who has knowledge spares his words. Another thing. If you truly are smart, you're going to play dumb. You're going to say less anyway. The person who's always talking the most in the room most likely is not the most important person in the room. You need to be looking at who that person is talking to. And it's usually say real bosses don't speak. They just sit back and listen. Everybody goes for the clamoring one. It says a man of understanding is cool of spirit, kind of just laid back, reserved, doing less talking, less explaining. Just that's us, or at least it should be us. From here, I want us to go to Psalms 119.
And I'm gonna go watch TV and I'll make it later.
We're in 119 and make our way to 171 to 172. David writes, my lips pour forth praise, for you teach me your laws. My tongue sings of your word, for all of your commands are righteous. Or rightness, rather. So here we're talking about the lips and the tongue again. And we've already read how David said to guard those very things so that he could, when he opened his mouth, pour out praise about him being taught the Most High's laws, so that his tongue can sing of his words, for his commands are right. In the same way that woman in Proverbs, when she opens her mouth, what's found on it? Wisdom and spirit of kindness. From here, I want us to go to Proverbs chapter 6. Chapter 16, it says, these Yahweh hates, and 7 are an abomination to him. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands shedding innocent blood, a heart devising wicked schemes, feet quick to run the evil, a false witness breathing out lies, and one who causes strife among brothers. And I just want to see that real quick that two of those directly deal with the tongue. A lying tongue with those right there.
Can you reread that passage?
Yes. And then the other one is one.
Can you repeat the verse in 6:16? 6:16.
Yes. The other one is one who is bearing false witness, breathing out lies, and one who causes strife. Well, actually, it's three. Strife part also starts with the tongue. It says, These Yahweh hates, and 7 are an abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands shedding innocent blood, a heart devising wicked schemes, feet quick to run to evil, a false witness breathing out lies, and one who causes strife among brothers. There's the difference between a sin and an abomination, right? You know, sin is the breaking of the law, simply put, as is told in John. But an abomination is that plus something else. Because see, we all sin. We were all called sinners, but we were not all called an abomination. So there's a difference. So we were all born sinners. Sin cannot be abominations because we were not all born abominations. So what is an abomination to him? It's something that is utterly detestable. Something that's damn near hard to come back from. Like homosexuality is considered an abomination. Bestiality is considered an abomination. It's a grotesque and distorted use of whatever has been created, something that the devil has done and just took and bent up and mangled so bad that when coming into contact with it, it will instantly put you on his fiery side. Because his will is that none shall perish, but shall come to the repentance and knowledge of the truth. So he doesn't want you to die, more so he doesn't want to have to kill you himself. He'd rather you kill yourself. Which most of us do with our tongue. Because there's life and death on it. But an abomination will place you directly on his fiery side. You're on his firing squad right now. And that's a very dangerous position to be in. Because when you get there, ain't no advocacy. It's really hard to come back from that. It's really hard to come back from that. So, the abomination in and of itself could possibly be a whole other lesson. Because of what they are, with the detail. And so, the tongue is one of these things that are put into the same categories of an abomination. It's just not proper. It's just not proper. And more so again, from what results from that, how many, just think in our communities, how many blacks were murdered by the tongue of a white person? By the woman saying, he did this to me. How many? Well, like brutally, they would castrate the man first, then hang him up for all to see, or put it in his mouth. Just couldn't kill him. Had to do him like that. Fast forward to 2020, how many black men have been murdered, shot down by a woman saying so and so did so and such to me? He raped me. He called me this. She was in the man's face. He had to get him off of him. I mean, the stories, come on, man. You've been in the hood, you know how it go down. The tongue causes so much. Jezebel's tongue caused Ahab to go and murder that man for his vineyard. It's very destructive. And the Most High knows that the devil's going to use that for his tool. So if you can't control it, better you be cast out with it. Cut it off. Cut it out. And not speak at all. Doing yourself a favor. For me, I want to go to one of my favorite verses. And we're going to close out here. It's in Deuteronomy 23:23. It says, that which has gone from your lips you shall guard and do, For you voluntarily vowed to Yahweh your Elohim what you have promised with your mouth. So whether that be a fast, whether that be, I don't know, something you have said you would do for eternity or as long as you live, whether that be vows you made, you voluntarily did it. No one made you do that. You had a choice. You were knowledgeable before you did it, and you made the vows. I am going to do such and such and such for such and such and such. In the same way that when he gave us his laws, he didn't make us keep them. We said, yeah, all that you have spoken, we shall surely do. We didn't do it. He didn't put a knife to our necks and said, like the Muslims do, convert or die. He's not into that business, and still is not. Therefore, if you see that this is what I'm going to do, and you vow it under his name or under the name of Yahshua, because I've already told you that what you bound on earth will be bound in heaven, we're going to honor that, then you best keep it. If not, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Because now you're putting the curse upon yourself. For this very reason, why I've said that the women and the daughters have their husbands and their fathers to disavow anything that they have said that the man knows very well that they're not going to keep or won't feel the same way 20 minutes from now. So I'm not going to hold you to that. I'm going to sweep it off the table. Hey, you're tripping. And the same way that our head for men, Yahshua, I'm pretty sure he does the same thing for us because we say stupid stuff too. Read about David. David makes a lot of vows. He's emotional. He makes a lot of vows. Saul makes a lot of vows. Oh, I should surely. No, it's not just women. We humans will all do it. But again, we have an example now. Lastly, I want us to go back to James really quickly. James, and that is, we're going to be in 1, and it's 19 through, where you at? So 19 to 26. Okay. So James says this. He says, so then, my beloved brothers, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak. You need the tongue to speak. Slow to wrath, for the wrath of men does not work the uprightness of Elohim. Therefore put away all filthiness and overflow of evil, and receive with meekness the implanted word which is able to save your lives. And become doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Because if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and immediately forgets what he was like. But he that looked into the perfect Torah, that of freedom, and continues in it, not becoming a hearer that forgets, but a doer of work, this shall be one blessed in his doings. And it says, if anyone among you thinks he is pious or religious, and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this one's religion or piousness is worthless. Doesn't matter what you call yourself. Doesn't matter how you dress it, how many years you've been in ministry, how many people you done banished demons. It doesn't matter. You can't even take control of your own emotions. We're told that a man giving into his emotions is like a city built without a wall. You're vulnerable. You get a lot of people who does not matter. Handle your emotions, bridle your tongue. Straight up. And then so goes the head, so goes the body. So the women don't get off either. If the man's required to do this, then that's what you signed up for. It is what it is. Because Al-Mashiach did it. That's what our head did. We can't duck one up that hill. He did it. Then we got to do it too. And so forth. Also too, James says a lot in verse 25. But he that looketh into the perfect Torah, that of freedom. Because a lot of people will tell you that the law keeps you in bondage. Sin in flesh keeps you in bondage. The law helps you to easily delineate the sin. But when you keep it, it frees you, because when you perfect that law, we read in Romans that there is no law. You're free from that now. You're free from the law because you have perfected it. Thus, you have moved into a different realm. You're operating in spirit because the law is given and governed flesh. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Well, if you're in the spirit, it doesn't apply to you. Thou shalt not eat these. Well, if you're in the spirit, it doesn't apply to you. Thou shalt not covet thee. If you're in the spirit, you're not coveting anything. You're not there. You're not murdering. You're not robbing. You're not doing any of these things. So anyway, that concludes our lesson on the wisdom on bridling thy tongue, which I bluntly say shutting the F up. Anybody got any questions?